Sunday, everybody.
And trying to decide which patient gets the most of it.
So this is the Breit Rock Discovery Show, special Sunday edition, jamming out in beautiful Pilsen, Illinois, after the moderate snowstorm that we had in the city over the weekend. So made it out here, and actually today's a beautiful fucking day, beautiful day for some rock. A little bit of a downer note. Well, before we get into that, as always, introduce producer extraordinaire Jake. How you doing, Jake?
I'm good, man. Welcome back for another week. We're a day late. No worse for it.
Yep. Day late, dollar short, but we're all good. Last week we wrapped up our part 2 of the anticipation episodes for 2019, and we're getting back into the swing of things again. So this week's episode, we're going to be reviewing the New Year's Eve show that at Reggie's just a couple weeks ago. And before we get into that, just wanted to speak to the lead-in song for just a second. This week we lost Lorna Doom, bass player and original manager of the Germs. So that's why we played a little bit of Media Blitz. As a punk, I think the Germs have been just ever present. They were obviously way before my time. So Darby had passed before I had gotten into music, and Lorna passed today, and it's unfortunate. They were definitely a band that you read and get into the history of punk music, the history of the first 100 punks in LA. They were right there in the ground floor of the punk movement, and it's unfortunate because the entire band, I think, got overshadowed all throughout their time, and were later appreciated when they were long gone. But very cool to see that their presence still sticks around today. It's unfortunate that we lost Lorna, and I think she passed away at 60. So yeah, that was that. Like I said, they were an influential band to me growing up, and I just wanted to give a shout out. And we'll wrap up with a little bit more Germs, but getting into the swing of the episode. Why don't we get back into a little bit more
Season 2?
Yeah, season 2. Back to the grindstone in the best way possible. Like I said, we got through the special anticipation episodes. We're back into the swing of things. So this is a review of the New Year's Eve show this year at Reggie's. So this was the Cobains, No 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 No, 13 Angels, the Old Comiskies, and the Queers. This was very much a pop punk show, and longtime listeners to the show will recall last year I went and saw another pop punk New Year's Eve showcase to wind down 2017. That was the Suicide Machines with Bad Cop, and several other bands. But this year, again, another pop punk, fun evening out. Anybody who knows the Queers or Old Comiskies or Cobains knows that you're going to get a lot of Ramones sounding early pop punk, bratty punk, late 80s, early 90s, just devil may care, kind of fun loving, get drunk and party on a Saturday night kind of music. So that was a lot of fun. Couple new bands in the mix for this set that I had never heard of before. No 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 No. We'll get into them a little bit. They really were impressed, made an impression on me. Very cool stuff. And 13 Angels, which is another band I had never heard of. Very cool stuff. We'll be dipping into all that in the course of the show. But why don't we get to the beer? The beer we are drinking Great Central Brewing Company, another beautiful Chicago brewery, and they are, I think, out of 221 West Wood Street, so in beautiful Chicago, Illinois. And today we are chilling out with their Weizenbach. So typical, seasonal beer. It's a little bit of a heavy Bach beer. It's a 7% ABV, so I'm keeping Jake drunk on the weekends with our taping.
Yep, with the day off tomorrow, now my Sundays are going to be nice and sloppy. So when I see Julie and you guys later, you'll have a reason. It's right here.
Yep.
Also,
Yep.
it's on brand with the color scheme.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is a real good Weizenbach. Anybody who likes the Bach beers, your more traditional German style beers. This is 7%er, so it's a nice hearty winter beer. Keep you warm on a chilly afternoon, and it's got, I believe, a 26 IBU, so it's got a little bit of that hot bite on the back end, but otherwise a very good Chicago beer. Yet another in our amazing lineup of Chicago beers.
Lineup, yeah. It's like getting the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, trying to review every Chicago beer that's out right now with so many breweries and whatnot. Where are you saying?
Know.
Number 1 in the country right now, correct?
We are currently, as of this year, we are number 1 in terms of microbrews in America. I believe the article I read in the Tribune had us at 167 microbrews in and around the city, whereas Boulder or Denver and Portland were the previous contenders, and I think we just squeaked out ahead of Denver, who has, I believe, 153. So,
and it's it's per capita too, right? So that's actually even more. I think it's like breweries per capita, if I'm not mistaken, right? So it's like those both have much smaller populations to put that ratio against. I mean, there's like a shitload of breweries.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Chicagoans love their beer, and I'm no exception. And with that, we've gone through the beer. Let's get to the shirt. So, like I said, this was a shirt I picked up at that New Year's Eve show. So this is Night of the Livid Queers by the Queers, and that's the song that we're going to listen to because I felt it was very appropriate. So why don't we just dive right in? We've got the Queers with Night of the Livid Queers.
Here we go.
Faces so lazy, all day he stays in bed. Going out with Mickey, and then you spring go to the tiny limo knows I can play faster than him. Go! Go! Living out to my real mission now, not a little quiz. Living out to my real mission now, not a little quiz. Not a little quiz. Not a little quiz.
Jamming out to the headliners that night, and we're going to take a step back, as we usually do, talk about all the bands that played that night, and stepping out to the opening acts, which was the Cobains, Kobanes. So not to be confused with anybody else who is famous and might have shared that last name. But no, like I said, it was a fun night of just like pop punk, real kind of high energy, real good vibes. And I'm sure this is a scenario where, like, Reggie's wasn't too keen on it, but it was not a sold out show. There was a very good attendance, but
Mhm.
in terms of a New Year's scenario, as a fan and as somebody going out, on New Year's Eve, I couldn't ask for a better evening. This was a scenario where you can actually like move through the crowd, get a beer, you know what I mean? Like talk to people. It was very
Almost too good to be
comfortable.
true on New Year's, huh?
It was very comfortable. I mean, comfortable in a rowdy way, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like, I hate being like just like jam packed and like sweating and like just
Right, right.
miserable when you're out and about. And this
Especially
was,
like a night like that where you're like actually trying to have like a memorable night. Like if it's like a Wednesday, it's like, all right, fuck it, it's a Wednesday. I'll take the punches tonight. But yeah, New Year's Eve you want to have like something a little more opulent, I guess.
you're right. And like, I would say that it didn't hinder the night in any way. You know what I mean? If anything, it accentuated it. It made it more memorable because
yeah,
it was
yeah.
like, holy shit, it wasn't like the normal bullshit.
Well, that's what's up. Yeah, I mean, not that it's normally bullshit at Reggie's, but
No,
no,
I
I'm
mean,
just
I
fucking with
love
you.
Reggie's.
getting
I'm,
shit.
I'm there all the time.
But yeah, that's what's up. I mean, what else? What else about the show? What brought you out specifically? I know you've been a fan of the old Comiskey's, who we're gonna talk about in a second. But
Yeah.
what was like the reason for ending up at Reggie's on New Year's?
This was, I think, a little bit kind of what I was talking about earlier. I saw some pop punk last year with Suicide Machines and Bad Cop, and that was a great night out. It was also at Reggie's. It was that was a sold out set. That was a lot more, shuffling around to try and like get a beer and stuff. I've found that to me, if I'm gonna go out on New Year's Eve, I'd prefer to see a concert rather than like go to, pardon me, some like some big event or like party where you're gonna like spend a lot of money to drink like watered down drinks and listen to a bunch of music you don't give a shit about.
Yeah, of course, of course.
So like I've made it a point over the last several years to try and find like a good New Year's Eve set, and over the years I've seen a bunch of different genres. You know what I mean? Last couple years it was pop punk. I believe in, what was it, 2016? I think it was High on Fire and an Empty Bottle. 2015, I think, was Ministry at Concord. 2014, I think, was Pelican at Beat Kitchen. Or I don't know. It goes back several years.
Yeah,
though.
yeah, yeah.
And just seeing different genres of music. Of course, I'm enjoying the music, but I think, going to see one of those more lighthearted pop punk sets, it really kind of gives a fun vibe for the evening.
Uh-huh.
And like I said, I enjoyed myself so much last year that I was less looking at like specific bands I wanted to see and what kind of more so than like I wanted to find like a mood, you know what I mean? Like I wanted to find a good vibe for the night. And that was what I kind of like was like, no, that'll be a fun, romp out for fucking New Year's, and I was not disappointed.
That's what's up. Yeah, no. So take us through a little bit as we move through.
Mhm.
What else you got in store for us?
Yeah, so like we'll start out with the Cobains. I've got a couple tracks from everybody, because it's punk. Songs are about a minute or so, so figured stretch it out, give the listeners a little bit more to digest from all the bands. And
definitely.
leading into the next little block of songs, like I said, these are from the Cobains. I picked a couple of tracks from a couple of their different albums. The first one is going to be off of Public Affection. The second one is going to be In With the Outpatients. The track that I'm about to play really kind of struck a chord with me. I don't know about anybody else, but growing up a Chicagoan and in and about the city, one of my first jobs was the cart boy, the bag boy at Jewel Osco.
Very iconic.
Yeah, so I spent a year, figuring out how I could not bag people's groceries, and I was always the first to volunteer that, I'll go grab the carts out of the parking lot. I hated dealing with people so bad. I don't know why I took that job. But the first track is called Jewel Osco, and it immediately brought back, memories of my 16-year-old ass, like, just, like, conniving, like, how to get out of doing this shitty-ass job.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of those things. It's part of growing up. I was a caddy at one point. That shit sucked. Like, I feel like bagging groceries that shit out in the sun.
So working at Jewel was, like, my second job. My first job, I was a caddy at a golf course down on the south side, and I think I made about a week and a half. I don't even know if I got paid. Like, I don't even know if they gave me money, because that was the worst. I after, like, walking around, with some big fucking old dude who doesn't give a shit about you and just, like, talks shit, ignores you, makes you drag his shit around, and then gives you what, $3-4?
Yeah,
$5.
I feel you, because, like, I remember I stopped after I had to, like, carry whatever I had, and then somebody else's too, like this other kid, and he just walked next to me the whole time.
Yeah.
And then he got, like, a $40 tip, and I got, like, a $10 tip,
Oh,
and I could
it
never
was
really justify going back after that.
It was a miserable job. My recollection was I would, they'd tell me to go, like, collect balls and shit, like, out of the water and stuff. And, it's like,
yeah.
Well, fuck it. You didn't fucking pay for any of these balls, and I had to go collect them. So I just, like, take pockets full of balls and, like, go home. Like I worked for about a week and a half, and I think I came out with, like, 50 balls. It was like, fuck this. This is stupid. I'm out of here.
Yeah, I feel you.
I could not deal with it. My brain was not in that mentality whatsoever. But enough about that. Why don't we get into it? So let's listen to Jewel Osco and then Neat Freak.
Let's do it.
and we're back. Mild Sauce Live. You know, it's kind of hot. Jamming out to the Cobains. Southside Pride, local Chicagoans. Dig them. They've been around for a minute. They've got a bunch of full lengths out. Played a couple of tracks off a couple of their albums. And shifting gears a little bit, I think the next band up was definitely the farthest out from like the Ramones Love Fest that was going on New Year's Eve at Reggie's. You know, the Cobains, big Ramones fan. You can tell it in the music. Same thing with the Queers. Same thing with Old Comiskey's. You know, it's very much a traditional American old school punk vibe going on, and one of the highlights I think of the evening was No 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 No. That's the next band we're gonna play. We're gonna hear a couple tracks off of their new or current release. They're a band that you know. You help me out with this, Jake. So like this week we saw, what was that, the release of Vic Mensa's Cranberries cover.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, what did you think of that?
It wasn't my favorite.
Yeah.
I that's got like deeper feelings attached to it, I think. But I don't know. I think the rap rock crossover is always just like super. It's like the fruit in like the Garden of Eden or something for every rap and punk rock person. You know what I mean?
Right.
They all want, it's like every rapper wants to be a basketball player, and every basketball player wants to be a rapper. It's like the same thing goes for like punk rock and rap. And it's like I never really get it. It's like kind of this like unique uniting outlaw thing or something like that, but at the same time it's like it just doesn't always come off the right way.
Right,
That one didn't feel like it for me. Also, I don't know, the Cranberries didn't feel like the most punk thing in the world. If you're gonna go, it feels like you got to go full or not, or like can you like hash mark? I don't know. These are my ramblings. Was this picture taken at fucking Benny's? This looks like a
right? Definitely feels like it. No, I bring it up because the band we're talking about now, No 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 No, they have an interesting juxtaposition between you know, genres of music they're playing with, and definitely with the release of Vic Mensa's new track, that was a topic of conversation that I had run into a couple of times over the course of the week in Chicago here, and I am definitely in agreement with you, Jake, where it's you know, coming, you know, I don't want to come off like curmudgeon-y old man, but like I feel I mean, it
didn't get a lot of love in the world, I think.
I mean, you know, it's perfectly fine for what it is, but I think like nobody should confuse it with like trying to like push the boundaries of anything. You know what I mean?
It feels like falling back within, if anything, right?
I mean, it's a little bit safe, and one of the things that I realized that I was lamenting throughout the course of some conversation was like, you know, Chicago has such a wealth of talent. Just genre wide between like, you know, very cool hip hop, very cool like rock, punk, metal, industrial, electronic, you know, you name it. We're an international city. We've got a lot of stuff, and I always lament when an artist that I really like and respect, you know, I see the potential for them doing something awesome, and then they kind of like Cranberries felt a little safe to me.
Yeah, that's
you know what I mean.
Right.
And you know, I think like there's a lot of opportunity to be challenging, to collab with like some truly innovative, you know, artists.
Like horror would be a great place for him to start. Like that's, I think you hit it on the head. I think that's kind of the reason it's being, you know, as much as, you know, I love Vic and everything, but as much as, you know, he pushes into this world, it doesn't always seem like he's pushing into the world with new voices. It feels like he's pushing into it with established voices, or voices that he can like stand on as a foundation, which again, like you said, is safe. But it would be fun to see him and team up with some young kids like Horror, who are doing their own thing. I don't know a lot about rock in your world and stuff like that, only through like this little magnifying glass you give me each week. But like that's one band that I definitely know is like doing some crazy shit, and is like doing some crazy shit in a new generation with their own sound, already being recognized for it too, right? Were they up for a Grammy at least?
I don't know.
They were
about
up for
that.
some award or something.
I
recently.
think yes. I don't know,
I
I
can't
don't know
remember
if
what it
Grammys have
was.
recognized them, but I
I'll
don't
look
hold much
that up
faith
because
in the
I
Grammys.
feel like they were up for it at least.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, to say that they recognized, so that seems like if he was coming in with that,
Yeah.
I would be with it. You know, like
Yeah,
if
and
he was
I
coming
don't,
in,
don't like take it as like throwing shade or
no,
like,
it's
you know
not
what
shade.
I mean,
It's more
like
just
hating.
like the optics of it.
I
Right?
feel like there's opportunities, and when I see stuff that I feel like there's like there could have been like a really cool thing going on. This is all right, but like you know what I mean, like step. I think that somebody like Vic could be well suited to like challenge himself, the genre, his fans with some collabs that are a little bit more, you know what I mean, taking a step into the deep end and seeing, if it's gonna rise or fall, you know what I mean? Like I always give credit to anybody who like tries. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's just sometimes, it's like I don't know. There's something to be said for it, but I mean, he's doing it. So that's cool.
no. And my only point was, and I don't want to drag on Vic or nothing, but my point is as a little bit of a contrast, let's say, No is a band that is that's playing around and doing some stuff that's like hitting the right buttons for me. I think they're raw. I think they've got some opportunity to like. You know what I mean? Kind of rein it in a little bit. They're a little bit all over the place, but that's why I like it. And it's different, and it's definitely putting their flag in the sand. And like I said, it's like I will give A for effort to anybody who's like challenging, and I find this challenging in the best way.
Yeah, I agree. And I was also this whole time I've been trying to see if I could actually find something that followed up with this horror Grammy thing. I could have sworn that they did last year.
I don't give mummies. I haven't in a long time. I would be shocked. I would be
it was
shocked.
Like, I don't know why it was even in my head. That's the thing. Yeah, I'm not sure. All right, well, fuck me, I guess.
No. I think this is a nice little segue. Like I said, these guys were not the general sound for the bulk of the evening, but I think it was a treat. It was a good thing, and I'm definitely vibing on this record a lot. I picked it up on New Year's. I've been listening to it a lot. It's raw as fuck. It's just a little, 5-song EP.
I was thinking of Code Orange instead of Horror. Excuse me.
Yeah, and they got skunked by Mastodon.
Yes, excuse me. That's what I got those two confused.
Two bands pushing it though, But why don't we dip into the music? So, like I've been talking about these guys. I don't know a lot about them. I just heard them for the first time on New Year's. I have been listening to this EP. It's been on heavy rotation since. So last week and a half, 2 weeks, I've been jamming out to it a lot. And like I said, there's a lot of really cool fucking shit going on, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what else they come out with, and be on the lookout for these guys next time they play out. So no. We're going to listen to a couple tracks. The first one is called Amen No, and what's the next one?
Back No.
Yeah, Back No, and it's off of the EP called No Now.
All right, let's check it out.
You got any volume on that?
No.
America is a nation of believers, and tonight we're joined by faith leaders from across the country who believe in the dignity of life, the glory of God, and the power of prayer. Everybody agree with that? Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims and United States. We are protecting the sanctity of life. Thank you. God bless you. God bless Israel. God bless the Palestinians. And God bless the United Church. Thank you.
Would you now, world watcher, tell President Putin, would you denounce what happened in 2016, and would you warn him to never do it again?
Russia's actions had no impact at all on the outcome of the election. Let me be totally clear in saying that, and I've said this many times, I would accept our intelligence community's The sentence should have been, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be Russia. Sort of a double negative. Said the word would instead of wouldn't. And the sentence should have been, and I thought it would be maybe a little bit unclear. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be. I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful. I have President Putin. You just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be. I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today. And what he did is an incredible offer.
Well, tell us about it, Steve.
All right, we're back. Mod Sauce Live, jamming out on a fucking Sunday afternoon. Fucking killing it with No. I really dig what these guys are doing. I mean, it was very cool. You know, obviously they've got a perspective and they're dropping it out there, and I got to respect them for that. And I definitely dig how they're fucking with shit. You know what I mean? They're definitely shifting things around, mixing up a little bit of the hip hop, a little bit of the DJ stuff, a little bit of the rock. You know, I think it's a lot of stuff that we touch on Mild Sauce here, but it's a nice mix of a little bit of everything. Yeah,
that was our ethos right there.
Yeah,
on record.
Mm-hmm. So you know they definitely put a smile on my face, and that leads us to the next band, 13 Angels. This was another band that that was definitely very interesting, in a good way. Obviously, it was fun stuff. It was your think about, you know, traditional 3-piece stand-up bass psychobilly, right? So a la,
Sure.
a la Tiger Army, or you know, Leftover Crack, or you know, bands of that ilk. But I thought it was a definitely a differentiated band in terms of the vocals. You know, coming out of Chicago, I think this band has definitely got a little bit of a Alkaline Trio influence, a little bit of an Against Me influence. You know, mix that in with the psychobilly, and it leads to some cool stuff. You know, I was also in the live setting. You know, the lead singer was really kind of like getting into it, you know, and just belting it out. And there was definitely a couple points during the course of the performance that I was getting a little bit of like old school metal, a little bit of like Black Sabbath, a la Roddy James Dio era.
I think
You know,
Rodney Dangerfield. Sound like that's where you're going with it.
yeah, no, that
You know that old Rodney Dangerfield punk.
that would be interesting. But no, some Ronnie James Dio mixed in with a little bit of Matt Skiba, mixed in with a little bit of Against Me. So there was a lot of really interesting vocal vibe going on, and you know, it was a cool juxtaposition in a genre of music where you don't really get a lot of that that vocal dexterity, let's say. But why don't we dive in? So we've again. This is 13 Angels. I've got a couple tracks off of a couple of their different albums. So the first one we'll check out is Menacing Girl, and that is off of Canaries in the Coal Mine. And the next track we'll dive right into is called World's End. That is off of Tiny Sinful Birds. And very cool stuff. I got to say, though, as a psychobilly band, one thing that I craved a little bit more of was, you know, a little bit more emphasis on that like stand-up slap bass. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of these bands over the course of the years, you know, going back in, you know, with all these, you know, psychobilly style rockabilly bands, you know, they really kind of emphasize the, you know, that crazy stand-up bass and the unique sound that comes out of it. And you know, this is a band that had it, and I was wishing for a little bit more of it. But, you know, nonetheless, it was very cool stuff. So why don't we dive in? So Menacing Girl and World's End, both from 13 Angels. They rocked it on New Year's Eve at Reggie's. All right, we're back. A little bit of technical difficulty as producer extraordinaire Jake is working on fixing that. I will ham it up a little bit more. But no, like we've been talking about all night, Reggie's is a fucking great venue to see shows. This was no exception. I gotta love the scenario in there. You know, it's a really easy vibe. I think that they definitely are well served by the fact that there's really not a lot in terms of like neighbors with that place, so they can like really crank it out late. This was no exception. The show went right till close, and after the set, wandered over to the bar afterwards to try and get a drink. And unfortunately, I literally had about 5-10 minutes to like slam one down before we got thrown out of the other side because the set went on so late. But it was very cool. You know, if anybody was wondering, I was the guy that bought the show poster for the night that was hanging outside the cashier's area at the front end of the set. That is currently hanging in my living room. Very much a fan of that. And you know, it was very cool. And whereas I appreciated the fact that we had that traditional Ramones style rock vibe going on. We got a nice mix with No 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 and 13 Angels, where they kind of, you know, brought a little bit of differentiation into a you know, very traditional sound for the evening, but very good stuff.
My bad. We'll be back in just a moment with the music. But what you know, Reggie's always held like a pretty important place in the lexicon of Chicago rock. Was there a particular show when you were like coming up and you were younger that like really stuck out to you that made it that, like, I know when I was coming up covering a lot of rap in the city, there was several shows I went to. A lot of those early Save Money shows, a lot of like, I remember seeing like Asher Roth, but he brought out kids these days. But yeah, I just remember there was a lot of shows for me that like kind of centered around Reggie's and like the stuff that they did. They have a great community building thing there, but I was just interested to hear like if there's one for you.
I think, you know, and maybe this is just, you know, my outsider perspective, but like, you know, thinking about venues in the city, whereas, you know, I'm a kind of guy that is going to go see a Stoner Doom show just as quickly as, you know, I'm going to go see, you know, Puerto Rican hardcore show. You know what I mean? Like, like, you know what I mean? There's a lot of things that'll draw me into a set, and to me, I think Reggie's is almost defined by the booking agents that fill it.
Yeah.
They're definitely a venue that I've noticed, and because, like I said, because of my outsider perspective, I don't know why, but like some years it's like I find myself, it's like, you know, at least twice a month I'm over at Reggie's, or, you know what I mean? Some years I'll go several months in between sets, and you know, I've wondered that myself, you know. I think back, and, you know, there's always an interesting place in my heart because, you know, you can't walk in there and miss the giant Wesley Willis portrait that's overhead. You know, he was a Chicago staple. So, you know, there's very,
for those
cool...
who don't know, who is Wesley Willis?
Wesley Willis was a Chicago musician that was ubiquitous in the city. My recollections of him were in the 90s. You know, I would say like North Halstead, like up and down where you had like the you know, the funky, I don't want to say like, you know, this is like kind of getting into Boys Town, but not like overtly like, you know, like gay stores, but like, you know what I mean, like
Tonic Room Blues on Halstead.
They're you know, you think back to, you know, pre-2000s, back in the 90s, and there was always just these like funky stores that were up and down North Halstead. And I remember wandering into one, I forget the name of it, but like I walked in and Wesley Willis was sitting right inside the door, and he was headbutting everybody that walked in, because that's how he rolled, and like that was his, you know, sign of affection and love. So everybody gets a headbutt and everybody gets a fuck you, and you know, and I think that, you know, I have a fond respect for Reggie's because of my memories of the scene and of the heritage that they bring, and, you know, So I've always got a special place in my heart, you know, if nothing else, because of that Wesley Willis portrait hanging above the pit. But, you know, shows that stand out to me. I love the fact that you can catch bands, you know, like we're talking about now, 13 Angels, No. But then I have also seen amazing old school hardcore sets from bands like DRI. You know, Dirty Rotten Imbeciles is early hardcore crossover thrash, and they're still pumping shit out. One of the best shows of theirs that I saw was at Reggie's. You know, so they're one of these like stalwart staple cities where Jello Biafra is going to do a DJ set, you know, and then you're going to go see DRI, and then you're going to go see this like ridiculous fucking, you know, mishmash of like horror or, you know, No, or 13 Angels, or, you know, I saw the Scatolites there a couple years ago. And, you know, so you're getting a really cool mix of stuff. And I don't know if it goes to the bands that play or the scene that it fosters, but there's been so many occasions where the set ends and the bands come out and they pony up at the edge of stage, and, you know, they will sign autographs, take pictures, talk. Yeah, I've had so many awesome conversations, you know, and I think that's one of the cool things, because, you know, it's like you go to the Metro, and as soon as the house lights go on, you know, you've got the bouncers, get the fuck out, get the fuck out, get out of here. You know, Reggie's is one of those places that fosters a scene, and they create a situation where you can get to know bands, and it creates a deeper level of enjoyment and respect. And I respect that venue because they afford that situation.
That's amazing. I fixed the music, so I can play some music now.
All right, so why don't we get back in?
I appreciate that.
After me vamping for a little bit.
It was beautiful, beautiful vamping. Coming up here, we got World's End by the 13 Angels, and that's going to be right after that. It's going to come Menacing Girl also by the 13 Angels.
All right, let's do it.
It's Mild Sauce.
Underneath
not a mountain high. So where can I go? Not an ocean deep. So where can I go? She got a hold on me, and I got to let go. So share that whether we're skin or turn into stone again, make up your mind. Menacing girl, you're out of time.
Jamming out to 13 Angels, a little bit of Menacing Girl, a little bit of World's End, a little bit of that Chicago sound. Like I said, as you can tell, listening to that stuff, the band is definitely influenced a little bit by Against Me, a little bit by Alkaline Trio, a lot by Psychobilly, and it's all good. And that leads us to the next band.
Stuff.
I mean, we've been jabbering for a while, but we're getting towards the end of the episode, the end of the set list. We've only got 2 more bands to chat about. The next band, Old Comiskey. So these guys have been around for a while. Really fun. It's always fun to go to a show and listen to a band that is definitely from the city. They wear their heart, their comeuppance on their sleeve, and Old Comiskey's is no doubt, as you can probably tell by the name. Nice Southsiders.
And like you couldn't get more Chicago than calling some Old Comiskey. Like.
Right. And I just got to call it out. Jake and I were talking about this a little bit beforehand, but I bring it up all the time that it's cool to go see the little guys, the small shows, the local bands, and part of the reason that it's awesome is because you get to chat with these guys. They make themselves available. They want to talk to the fans, unlike a big set at the Chicago Theater or United Center or whatever. You know what I mean? So while we went through the New Year's Eve. Afterwards, I had a chance to meet and chat with a couple members of Old Comiskey's at the merch table after the set. They were really cool guys. Had a nice friendly conversation. Everything was cool. And as I do after the show, jumped onto Bandcamp and started searching out some stuff to pick up to play on the show. And I think going through, I don't think it was on Bandcamp, but getting some Old Comiskey's merch, ordered away for some stuff, and they were nice enough to have remembered the interaction and the conversation at New Year's Eve. So I got a special package from the band, and I just got to call it out. So got a wonderful koozie, got a sticker, got an embroidered patch.
Like everything.
Yeah. And got a couple of EPs. So both EPs came with the pins, and inside were stickers. And, we were talking about the Chicago love and appreciation. Old Comiskey's got the spinners from Old Comiskey Park when the Sox would win get the home runs. And then this was one that I wanted to point out specifically because I knew Jake would appreciate it. But, Southside Polish Pride.
100%. Yeah, I got to get one of those Old Comiskey's if you're watching this. I got to get me one of these for my house.
Yeah. Great stuff. And again, this is like simple interactions. I mailed away to get like one album, and I get all this bonus stuff because I'm friendly and chatty at the merch table, talking to bands after shows, and it pays off because like I said, you get cool shit, and you get into great conversations, and these guys had a great conversation. Good guys, good music. And this again kind of ties back to what I was talking about with the Cobains. Growing up in the city of Chicago, the bands that kind of shout out that Chicago pride, find special places in my heart. The Old Comiskey's, one of the songs we're gonna check out. The first song is "Drop the Gloves," so I'm sure Jake, you know what's going on here. Pee Wee League soccer, good stuff. Growing up in the city, playing on ice, and then secondarily, playing field sucks.
And it does.
And it does, and it does, and I can say that because for a hot minute I was living out in Crest Hill, the beautiful suburb of Joliet, just in the shadow of the prison, out west near that whole playing field, Lamont, Crest Hill, Joliet, Romeoville area. So listening to this song recalls a special time in my past. So why don't we dip in? So it's Old Comiskey's, good Chicago band with Drop the Gloves and Plainfield Sucks.
Let's do it up.
His buddies grew up together, trucking pucks on the local pond. After drinking a case of baddies, they play hockey all night long. His skating skills were never the best. He'd often look for a puck bunny or two. The only thing that he was really good at was connecting with his V1-2. But when an elbow connects with an eye, or someone's crush on his first line, he'll be ready to go in no time, ready to drop the gloves. He and his buddies grew up together, chucking pucks on the local pond. After drinking a case of baddies, they play hockey all night long. But when an elbow connects with an eye, or someone's crushed on his first line, he'll be ready to go in no time, ready to drop the gloves. I said he's ready to drop the gloves. Not gonna show no love. Ready to drop the gloves. Know that there will be blood. Destroy! False off! So when an elbow connects with an eye, or someone's crushed on his first line, he'll be ready to go in no time, ready to drop the gloves. I said he's ready to drop the gloves. Not gonna show no love. Ready to drop the gloves. Know that there will be blood. Plainfield ain't Naperville, whoa, no. Bolingbrook ain't Plainfield, whoa, no. It's Plainfield, Joliet, whoa, no. Or is Joliet just Crest Hill, whoa, no. It's Crest Hill, Romeoville. No, it's probably Lockport, which isn't a good thing. Whoa, which isn't a good thing. Whoa, this town is a giant meth lab waiting to happen. A bottomless pit that you're forever trapped in. An economic divide fully fucking realized. Can't you get me out of this goddamn place? I cannot stand it. Cater to the idiots. In come the dumb fucks. I never care for that place. Never shut your face. No, you know that I never care for that place. You know that I never care for that place. You know that I never care for that place.
All right, and we're back. Mild Sauce Live, jamming out to the Old Comiskey's with Plainfield Sucks, and before that, Drop the Gloves. Anytime anybody wants to shit on the southwest suburbs, I am in, because I grew up there and I know exactly what they're talking about.
That's fair. That's fair. Plainfield does suck, though, man. I spent lots of hot summer days standing in the sun in Plainfield playing football for no reason.
You know, my recollections of Plainfield are I've got several for a minute. Like I said, I was living out in Crest Hill. Prior to that, you know, as a lot of people do on summer vacations in college and high school and whatnot, you know, you're helping out with the family, and I had some construction work going on out in Plainfield for several years during college. I was in the electricians union, and I did a lot of work out in that area. And like I said, good stuff. You know, we were talking about it a little bit before the beginning of the episode. One of my early recollections of Plainfield was when that tornado hit back in what was that, early 90s? I don't know, sometime in the 90s. That tornado hit down in Plainfield, and I remember the first thing that came to mind in all my local friends' minds at the time was, oh shit's fucked up, let's go raid stuff. So a lot of people I know wound up with street signs and street lights and lots of municipal equipment off of the unfortunate tornado that hit Plainfield back in the day. But it's all over now, and we're grown beyond that. But we've been chatting a while. This has been going on for a long time. And, you know, we've got, this gets us to the end. So, you know, why don't we go out on a couple tracks? We'll go out on the Queers. They killed it, you know. I mean, they're old school, late 80s, early 90s. They've been around forever. Just workhorse band. They put on a great set. Lot of love from the crowd. It was definitely a well-attended, well-loved show. There was a lot of good vibes going on over the course of the night. Yeah, I mean, it was all good, and like I said, lot of fun, a lot of good times. You know, you go to do a pop punk show on New Year's Eve at least once in your life. You won't regret it. It's good stuff.
Some advice from Steve Breit.
But yeah, before we go out, why don't I get into the shout outs? So, as always, shout out to super producer extraordinaire Jake.
You're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Shout out to my traditional morning lead-in, which was
the weather is killing our morning show right now. As soon as we get the weather back and the health back, we're gonna have the team back.
Mm-hmm.
But sooner than later, the three-piece will be back. Probably right about the time we get our boy Ryan back and play as well.
Excited to hear that.
Mars is coming around. We got the Guide to Grade A Living.
Yeah, so shout out to Mars. Shout out to Guide to Grade A Living.
We got a couple interviews coming up on Mild Sauce Live.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear about
you
that.
You probably know about it, but Steve never sent me the promotion stuff, so I'm just fucking with you. Steve has had a fucking hell of a week. It's amazing that he's here doing this right now. It's a testament to the preparation. But no, yeah, we got a couple interviews coming up on that, and then we got a lot more dope stuff coming up. If you guys didn't have a chance, check out we collaborated with Come Together Chicago for a really important conversation that happened down the street. You won't find that on our socials as much. You can find it on theirs at Come Together CHI, Come Together Shy.
Yeah.
Jasmine Barber's doing some great stuff over there, and we were just happy to be a part of that.
And I gotta say, you know, like I listened to all of that broadcast, and that was a powerful evening of broadcast. Especially, you know,
nothing for us. Yeah, it's nothing to do with us at all.
No. I mean, like the voices and the conversation that came out of that. I mean, that's some serious shit going on with some, like, you know, we fuck around and we play lighthearted music and we joke and we drink, but you know, there's some serious shit going on in the Chicago scene right now, and you know, they're holding it down. I mean, that was some raw shit, and that was some fucking real shit, and that definitely opened my eyes and struck a chord with me. So I definitely appreciate you capturing that, and anybody that, you know, is struggling, you know, reach out. You know, it's important.
Yep, they got a lot of great services and everything for everybody over there, but just some good people doing some good things. I'm just happy to have the opportunity to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And to transition segue somewhere from that, we got some music to close out on before we got.
Yeah, so to come out of that heavy stuff, we're gonna go out with whatever happened to Filthy Phil from the Queers, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Like I said, we started the hour off with the Germs, and R.I.P. to Lorna Doom. You know, this is, you know, sometimes the raw corners of the punk world don't, I think, get the respect that they necessarily deserve. But you take, you know, what the contributions of that genre was, and you look at the 21st century, and it is an enduring legacy. And I think that it's something that needs to be acknowledged and respected. So, you know, with that, we'll wrap up with the Germs, Land of Treason, and like I said, shout out and R.I.P. to Lorna Doom, and obviously Darby Crash from way back when. But you know, let's not go out on a super downer, and look forward to, we've got more live reviews next week, and we're getting into an interesting February. You know, we've got Super Bowl coming up, so if at all possible, I definitely want to do like we did last year, keeping up with the traditions.
We got to get Paul back. We got to call Paul.
We need like a special guest, somebody to play off of, but I definitely want to do a Super Bowl episode, and then we're going to get into Black History Month. So I got a couple of some fun episodes that I've been waiting to play for a little bit now, that I've been working on for a minute, and so I'm excited for February. And why don't we go out on a good note and go out on some music?
Let's do it.
All right, so Queers, Germs, fucking rockin' weekend, and we're gonna be back for some more fucking rock discovery next week. So, you know, mild sauce, it's kind of hot. Let's fucking jam it.
Kind of hot.